in the hell?
Brad was attacked.
Capcom invited me to play Dead Rising's Deluxe Remaster early, about a month early, so I've got a couple of hours of playtime so far, and I get to share my thoughts with you guys today. So the first Dead Rising is very fresh in my mind because I played the 2016 HD version only a couple weeks ago on my channel here, so it was easy for me to compare and contrast what is actually different in this Deluxe Remaster. And what should be mentioned first is something all of you can tell. It's the obvious graphical upgrade. You can tell this game got a serious visual facelift. Now this game runs off the RE engine, which is responsible for the most recent Resident Evil games, and you can tell it makes a huge difference. It's just buttery smooth, very few hitches, if any, that I noticed in the first couple hours. But they also took the opportunity to change sort of the feel of the game. And I don't want to say like they changed it to the point where it still doesn't feel like the original game, because it very much does, but a lot of these interior spaces are just darker, and I think they were going for like more of a realistic look as opposed to the very bright version that we had, at least in the 2016 HD version. You can tell the difference here in Paradise Plaza, where you'll spend a lot of time running through here. It's just a little bit darker, and also it's got this nautical theme, which was not present, at least not as obvious in the 2016 HD version. The character models are definitely reimagined and I would say improved, but not changed to the point where you're like, oh no, that's not Jesse. Like very clearly you can tell they took the old design and just improved from where it was and brought it up to modern standards. A couple of the characters look a little bit different. I would say Frank, especially with his hair, he just looks older for some reason. And then Carlito and his sister Isabella, they definitely look a little bit different from what they did before. But again, the general aesthetic, like the vibes and what they were going for, I would say is still maintained from the, previous versions of this game. Something I didn't realize as I was playing is they actually cast new voice actors. I'm not sure if they did it for every single character, but Frank certainly is a new voice actor.
I'm Frank West, photojournalist. And right now, I'd rather have an explanation than your thanks, Brad.
I'm Frank West, photojournalist. And right now, I'd rather have an explanation than your thanks, Brad.
I didn't realize that until I was editing this video, which tells you the new guy did a really good job. I mean, it is very faithful. When I was watching this, I was like, yes, this is Frank West. He still kept that same, identity of that character in the remaster. The cutscenes in this game is where you get to see these, models at their best, and they redid all of the facial motion capture. And you can tell because it's not just, we just upscale what was there before. This stuff looks legit. It looks like animation you might see, for example, in a recent Resident Evil game. And that's because it's running on that engine and you can tell like it's been redone. Gameplay is a tricky thing to get right for a remaster because you want to give some improvements, but you don't want to change the overall feeling of what it felt like to play the original game. And it's interesting because Dead Rising makes some, I would say, kind of radical changes. First off, you can move and shoot at the same time. And that really reminded me of Resident Evil. In the newer games, you can, of course, move and shoot, and in the older ones, you couldn't. So it's a similar sort of upgrade here. Now, it's not really that important, at least in Dead Rising 1, to be able to move and shoot, I would say, because guns just aren't as good as some things like the small chainsaw, for example, or the katana, the free katana that you can get in Paradise Plaza every single time you go through there. But that is an example of like a modern little lift that makes sense and sort of brings it in line with other games that you would play, but it doesn't seem to compromise the way the game feels, at least to me. There's new camera functionality. You can tilt if you want to go for a different tilt with your pictures, and there's a new camera parts system. So the only one that I found in the first couple hours was the flash, and that's really nice. I mean, honestly, for taking pictures in the dark, because as you guys know, a lot of the game, it's played on a 24-hour cycle, so you're gonna be in the dark, and that was really helpful. Another really nice change that falls in the quality of life category is durability. You can finally see the durability of the melee weapons that you're using, which in the original and Dead Rising, even the 2016 HD version, you couldn't see that. It would flash when the item was about to break, but now you've got exactly like, hey, this is how durable this item is, and it gets you a better idea of what items are worth picking up and stashing versus others. Since we're talking about quality of life, you can now skip time, and I know it kind of depends on how you're going to play Dead Rising. Are you going to go for every single survivor? Because some of them, like, you need as much time as possible in order to get all of them, right? But now you can skip time if you want to get to the next main objective. You literally couldn't do that before. You had to wait a significant amount of real time until the next objective sometimes in the original. So the fact that now you can go to any bed or even any bathroom and just advance time feels really nice. I also feel like they tuned the difficulty in the Deluxe Remaster. Some of these encounters felt a lot easier this time around. For example, that awful Carlito sniper encounter with Brad. I died so many times when I did that for the first time a couple weeks ago. This time it was a piece of cake. Maybe it's because I know more about how to play the game, but it definitely felt easier this time. Also, Adam the Clown, that classic encounter with the, small chainsaws. That guy destroyed me the first time I played this game, and this time he was much easier to deal with. And so I don't know if they decided to go back and say, let's just make this a little bit easier. That was too hard for the early game or not, but that's what I felt. Another encounter that was much easier for me was dealing with the convicts. And I know a lot of your questions are going to be, did they keep the same song? They absolutely did, but I had to disable it for this video. But the convict fight was much easier this time. You basically just let them ram into a tree and then you can go ahead and start whacking. But in the original, dude, these guys destroyed me. They were shooting me from way across this area and I just couldn't do anything about it. This time it felt not too easy, but just fair. I took some damage, but I was able to get rid of these guys and I was so happy that I was able to. Another thing that felt a lot better is the survivors' AI. They seem to follow you better, they seem to listen better, and I was losing a lot less survivors. Again, that could have been because this was my second time playing the game and I've more knew how to control them and tell them to wait instead of follow me everywhere, and how to give them weapons and so on and so forth. But generally speaking, it felt like the AI was listening to me better. It was attacking when it needed to and running when it needed to. So if you're someone who always wanted to save all the survivors or save like many more than you could before because it was so difficult, maybe you're going to be able to do it better in the Deluxe Remaster version. Another small improvement I noticed, the PP stickers that give you like a ton of points when you grab your first photo of them, they are much more visible this time around, especially in the dark. They almost glow. And so I was noticing these stickers from, angles and places that I absolutely missed the first time I played this game. Also, it seems like the survivors point them out to you. That could have been something that was there before, but to my, recollection, I don't remember that being in the 2016 version. So it seems like the game wants you to see these things that were very easy to miss the first time around. Of course, one of the most fun aspects of the Dead Rising games in general is finding ridiculous outfits to wear, and finally, that's just easier now. So when you go and find something out in the world, you essentially collect a version of that, and then you can go back to your closet, which is now in your base, and you can change into anything that you've worn previously. And speaking of the closet, Capcom sent me a bunch of special edition codes just to show off to you guys. So if you want Frank to look like the Licker from Resident Evil 2 or Leon in his RPD outfit from the same game, you can do that. It's not something that I would do with the ridiculous outfits, but hey, it's there. This is a silly, goofy game, and if you want to have fun with that, you certainly can. Another thing I noticed and appreciated is when you're talking to NPCs in the security room before, you would get just some text, and there would be no voice acting involved with that outside of cutscenes. Now, if you go up to Otis, for example, he actually talks to you.
You ain't planning on going back down into the mall, are you? I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Same goes with Jesse and Brad, and that might not be a big difference for, people who haven't played the game before, but that is kind of nice. It adds another wrinkle and a reason to say, yeah, I want to go grab this instead of the 2016 HD version. Just like the original, Frank unlocks skills in gameplay as he levels up, different ways to get rid of zombies that are attacking you. And this time they flash on the screen with a prompt whenever you get, grappled by a zombie, which I felt as helpful. This was nice. Before, you just had to remember what to do. Now it flashes on screen, so I appreciated that. And I also appreciated that they didn't like shoehorn some sort of like points-based skill system into this game, because this is how it was in the original. That would have felt unnecessary sometimes when, you know, developers remake or remaster things. They do that. They change something to make it feel more modern. Not the case in this game. You don't have to worry about any weird changes like that. Now, a small change that I think fans of the series will appreciate is the fact that when you check your watch, it's actually reflected, you know, what Frank is wearing on his forearm. It's not just a bare forearm like it was before. And then I think the most important thing that hasn't changed is just the general flow of Dead Rising and how you were going to play this game, you know, back when it came out in 2006 versus 18 years later. And luckily, at least, again, in my experience of playing the game start to finish a couple weeks ago, it is unchanged. All of the old little strategies that you remember using, like grabbing the katana off of the awning in Paradise Plaza, or going up to Colombian roast masters and throwing the orange juice in the, you know, the blender and getting nectar and just loading up on that stuff before you go to your next location. All of that stuff is still there. Defeating the clown, Adam, and then saving Greg on the coaster unlocks that shortcut. That is still there. And that's something I didn't even know about, obviously, because I hadn't played the game before the first time I played it. And so anyways, it felt really nice to know these things and then go and test them out in the Deluxe Remaster and see that I was still rewarded for knowing the little tricks that you can use in order to, you know, play this game as best as you can. Another example of a shortcut that I used was this side door on the rooftop. So you're avoiding all of the zombies that appear in the elevator whenever you're going back into the mall. This time I used this shortcut to go in and out, and yeah, it just felt satisfying. Oh, and perhaps the biggest, most important change, guys, they added stairs to this rooftop. So when you are escorting your survivors, you don't have to watch them get stuck on here, and you don't have to necessarily direct them as, you know, explicitly as you did before to get them to come with you into the security room. Now you can just take the stairs. And it's so funny talking about this. It's such a small change, but if you've played this game like I have and you've gone back and forth a million times, those stairs were, I mean, the lack of stairs was always annoying. So the fact that they added that feels really nice. Other things that feel appropriately similar, the amount of hits that zombies take before they die with the weapons that you're using, exactly the same from my experience. Like, I knew that the small chainsaw was just gonna melt through people, same with the katana, but, you know, something as crappy as the, you know, lead pipe, for example, just sucks still. You know, you don't want to use that. And so you know, that knowledge that you brought from playing the game before, that still applies here. The mannequin torso is still very reliable. I know that if I grab that, it'll knock zombies back, and it's very durable. Another nice addition, the map is much clearer in this version of the game. The original map was fine, it's iconic, but this is very distinct. It shows very clearly with bright colors what's an exit, where the maintenance tunnels are if you have them unlocked, so on and so forth.
You're one hell of a journalist, aren't you, Frank?
So like I said at the top, I was only allowed to play the first day of the game, you know, so that was about 3.5 hours of playtime for me. And from what I could tell, like, this is Dead Rising. You know, this is the original game. The changes here, they feel nice. They give it a bit of a lift. And honestly, I don't have any complaints. I can't really call myself like a Dead Rising fan. I just played the original a couple weeks ago, as I mentioned, but it's still fresh in my mind, and it left enough of an impression on me, you know, for me to be able to compare these. And there's enough here from my perspective to say, yeah, it's definitely worth it to check this out if you love Dead Rising, or maybe you're someone who's always wanted to play it but didn't, you know, take the leap and decide to play it. And I think if you are coming into this and you're playing the original or the 2016 HD version, then you might be a little frustrated by some of the old game, you know, feeling of it, because it is unrelentingly difficult at times. Oh, another thing I did not mention is this game auto-saves. So if you were ever frustrated by, you know, spending 30 minutes to an hour without going to save in a bathroom and then losing all that progress in the original, this game does auto-save for you. And funny enough, I never died, so I couldn't actually, you know, tell you how useful that was, but I'm sure when I did die down the line, that would have been nice to have and less frustrating. But as I was saying, yeah, it's just sort of a modern facelift in a way that feels pretty faithful to the original original, and I had a good time with it. So yeah, I hope you guys got something out of that from seeing my early gameplay. It was really cool for Capcom to reach out and just say, hey, here's a code, check it out. I enjoyed it, and so I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, remember to hit that like button. I'd appreciate it, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and ring the bell so you don't miss my next one. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I will talk to you next time.